Welcome to CLIC Connect. I'm your host, Craig Sullivan. And today I'd like to thank our production partners, Radisson Hotels of the Americas and Chicago Title National Commercial Service Group. Without them and without you, we wouldn't have a show. We've got a returning guest today. She is amazing. She's a breath of fresh air for the entire hospitality industry. She is Miss Sarah Dandashy of Ask a Concierge. And guess what? She is now an author. Let's bring Sarah out and start the conversation. Sarah, how are you?
Craig, thanks so much for having me back on. It is so exciting to be here. And it was also so great because we've had a chance to see each other in person since we last saw each other. So, since I was last on the show. So it's awesome. It's so great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, it's great to have you here. And, you know, your book is just the best. Very easy read. You know, it applies to so many other industries besides hospitality. But, you know, before we start talking about the book and your trips and your ambassadorships, tell us, tell the audience a little bit about your book. What their whistle on that so that they run out there and buy it as soon as they see the show.
Definitely. So Hospitality from Within is a book that I actually put together. For those that might not know my background, I've worked in the hospitality industry for over 18 years, and in the luxury hospitality space, 15 of those years as a concierge, Les Clés d'Or concierge. So when it comes to really understanding guest interactions, even on a very broad level of just saying customer service, I've had a lot of experience, as I like to say, working on the front lines of travel. And so I wanted to put together a book that kind of ties in all the lessons that I've learned over the years from being a concierge, working with guests in some of the best properties in Los Angeles. And not only that, to tie into, so basically it'll show how not only my stories but stories of others in the industry as well too. So you've got concierge stories, you also have many execs and CEOs from within the industry that are sharing their 2 cents as well too. And I think once you kind of tie everything together, what I love is it just shows you how universal hospitality is, and that it just comes from within. And I hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of an insight on what the book is about.
Absolutely. And it does come from within. And, that's one of the many threads that tie us all together in hospitality. What was this journey like for you to write this book?
So it's interesting. I kind of work backwards when it comes to books. It's like I have a general idea, but I almost start actually with the title. And the title came to me. And then I kind of worked backwards and then built out, an outline and put it together. And it's interesting because it does take time. So I would find that I would write things, and then in the meantime, I was able to interview different, CEOs, execs, and they would give me these wonderful nuggets of information while I would be interviewing them for my podcast. So then I would go back and be like, hey, I loved when you said this line or you said this concept. May I use it in the book? So it's interesting because the book, I went in with one idea of how I wanted it to be structured, but then as time went on, the layers were built into it and very organically as well too. And it just happened to be who I was interacting with at that time. And that's how some of those individuals got to be part of the book as well. And then also the concierge stories. I really wanted to show all those really special, magical moments that you hear about, maybe at dinner parties with friends, other people that have worked in the hospitality industry, where they tell you these incredible stories of something amazing that they were able to do. And I wanted to share some of those as well from colleagues really from around the world. So it was definitely a process, but a really special one.
There you go. Now, did you wake up in the middle of the night and jot down an idea that came to you in a dream?
No, not so much that. I did do actually my first trip in the middle of the pandemic. I did a weekend getaway to Sedona, and it was on the drive back where I was brainstorming with one of my closest friends who happens to be a human resources director, and we were kind of like spitballing ideas. And so that's how it kind of all came to fruition. And then just doing the work. It's a lot of work to write it. And by the way, I formatted the whole thing. I did the graphics. So if there are some mistakes, be kind on be kind on me. I'm correcting myself.
Very hands-on. No, it's a beautiful read, and I loved it. I really did. How about telling the audience a little bit about the 7 pillars of hospitality that you have in this book?
Yeah. So what I did, and a lot of us in our experience when it comes to hospitality is that we definitely have an idea of some of those key, I call them pillars, but key components to hospitality, things that we're sort of taught. And I wanted to go ahead and list those out and then talk about them in a little bit more in depth. And to give you an idea, I mean, you've got genuine and authentic engagement, making it personal, the art of listening as well, anticipating needs. That's like a huge phrase that we all hear in the hospitality industry. But I also wanted to talk about consistency, efficiency, and then the last pillar I have is keeping it fresh. And to me, I think that that's also very important because as you've got all of these pillars and you're operating, we are still humans at the end of the day. And that human aspect is what makes hospitality so special. But, we also have to figure out, okay, how can we make this fresh and engaging for ourselves? So, I kind of talk about that and how you can keep it fresh for yourself, even if you've told somebody, told people 150 times how to do the same thing. But how can you still keep it fresh for yourself? And then not only for yourself, but for those that you're delivering that to.
Absolutely. Now, I had mentioned at the top of the show, this isn't just for hospitality.
Correct.
This book applies to any and all businesses, service, manufacturing, anything where you have a team, really.
Mm-hmm.
Now, was that by design? Did you have that epiphany while you were writing it that this could be a very broad-based book for everybody?
I always knew that. I mean, because here's the thing: is like at the end of the day, anytime you have any business that you are interacting with customers, they don't have to be guests. They can actually be customers depending on how you, or what it is you have customers. But then if you change the framework and you think of them as guests, it kind of came about naturally. But I am so delighted to hear that I've had a lot of feedback from individuals that work in completely different industries, from the finance industry to even writers that are, independent contractors that are like, this is actually really useful. They've told me that this is useful for them as they are engaging with their clients per se. So it wasn't necessarily by design, but I love that people are able to connect the dots and see the through line and find that it is also applicable to them. But that was really my main thing, is I wanted this to be an easy, digestible read. I didn't want to have it like put on somebody's desk and they look at it and they're like, oh gosh, it's like a crazy textbook. I'm never going to read it. My whole thing is like, if it's something that I would go, that would come to me, I'd be like, oh, I can read this. I can get little nuggets out of it. So you'll see that's why there are quotes. That's why there are little, kind of like key lessons that are bolded, because if it's all you take away are those, you're learning something from the book. And right now we live in such a world and a society that we are taking things in smaller bites. So that was by design. And I think by default, then that's how it's become a little bit more appealing to others outside of, the traditional hospitality industry.
I got to tell you, it's amazing. And when I made my transition, and this, that, I've been on the deal side. So, when I was going through this and I'm going, okay, if I was to do a speech for a private company, you've laid everything out here. All I have to do is change the words hospitality and customer to client or guest.
Exactly.
That's it. I was brought up, and this is a lesson I learned a long time ago. I had one of my bosses tell me, grocery stores have customers, we have clients. You're in a professional organization. And I went, whoa, I guess I better learn that lesson. So.
Yeah, but then if you take it all, and then it's like, but it's like if you treat everybody as a guest, would say that shifts the mindset. So whether it is a client or technically a customer or whatever it is, change that language and understand that they are your guest. And maybe it's not guest. Maybe you don't even have a physical store that they can walk in, and it's all interactions. If you treat them like a guest, and if you really try to have those special connections, your ROI on that is
Yeah,
definitely high. And people want to come back because at the end of the day, whatever your business is, people want to work with good people. So that's really what it comes
exactly.
down to.
Exactly. And when I made the transition to hospitality, it was like, okay, I'm going to be more hospitable than anybody else.
Yeah, I love that.
But they know that I am on their same page.
Mhm.
And it was a lot of just sitting in meetings and being quiet and picking up the nuances.
Sure.
And it served me very well. And then I eventually did make the transition. So
Love that.
kudos to you on that. Very well done.
Thank you.
Now, I'd love to keep you here for about another 3 hours, and I know that I can't.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, I loved all the chapters in this book. Every one of them, where you finished one, you left a nugget and you went on to the next one. And it was just a constant learning process and also a trip down memory lane, things that you may have experienced, throughout your career. So, really by design, that was wonderful and really kept me attached to the book while I was reading it. And I thank you for that. And you've definitely got a hit on your hands. So hospitality and tech. You and I know that hotels have been involved with tech for a long, long
Totally.
time. And actually, the first elevator in a hotel was in New York in 1857, and they did not come out to office buildings till 1870. And I thought that was, an interesting little tidbit on top of all the other things you're talking about, electricity. You were talking,
Exactly.
when that hit hotels, reservation systems, everything else. And, we have been on the vanguard. I've always said that other than NASA and the Department of Defense, hospitality is at the forefront of technology.
Oh,
And you can trace it back to the 1800s forward.
exactly.
And, how did Bill Marriott know what was going on in Hong Kong, Singapore, San Francisco, New York, and London?
Yeah.
It was the internet. It was live time numbers coming in from all the hotels. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad you pointed that out to everybody. That was really a nice touch as well. So, one of my favorite chapters was the art of effective communication.
Yes.
Please tell the audience about that.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. When you break down the notion of communication, obviously that is a huge part of hospitality, but it's to understand, we break it down actually in a couple of different ways. So on one side, it's understanding the language that you use and how that affects the individuals that you're speaking to, this notion of professional language. It's how you come across. And, but then it's also communicating and just being honest. Sometimes mistakes happen or there's a delay. And, at the end of the day, people just want you to be open and honest with them. And so it's how you can communicate that to then show that you're really, in essence, on their side. You're on the side of the guests. And then that's how you start, or you can even further a relationship. And I find that with really effective communication, you're able to take maybe, a mistake or a challenging situation and turn it into a win. And you can turn some of those guests into lifelong guests because of how you handled it.
Absolutely.
So, very important.
Absolutely. All right, Sarah, we're going to jump into the lightning round now.
Rick, let's do it.
Okay. Producer Danny's going to put 2 minutes on the clock. Word association. Here we go. Labor.
Jobs.
Team.
People.
Can do.
Attitude.
Amenities.
Luxury.
Road warrior.
Worker.
Keep it fresh.
Keep it crispy.
Bleisure.
Ooh. Business. Business.
Business. I love it.
So
Favorite airport.
LAX.
Tequila or whiskey?
Oh gosh. Depends on the situation. Tequila.
All right, there we go. Favorite hotel or resort?
Oh my goodness. One and only Pamia in Cabo.
There you go. Drive or fly?
Fly.
There you go. Hey, look at that. I think you set a new record. You left a minute and 1 second on the clock. Very good.
Awesome. This is so exciting.
So we're going to wrap this up shortly. So let's talk about keeping it crispy. That was really a good part of your book as well. So would you explain that to the audience, please?
Yeah. So keeping it crispy is, I love this phrase. Actually, I heard it from a speaker, Dr. Brian Williams, and he would always say this, keeping it crispy, which is a different way of the notion of keeping it fresh. And it's that notion of like keeping yourself on your toes, looking at what you're doing through new eyes, having this fresh attitude towards something that you may do a lot, but viewing it through the eyes of the guest is really important. So, again, you can have all of these pillars, but if you don't kind of adjust your attitude towards it, it's all a moot point. So that's why it's very important to keep it crispy, keep it fresh.
There we go. Miss Sarah, thank you for joining us today. I know you have to run and we have to cut this short. So, shameless plug. How can everybody get a hold of you?
Great. You guys can find me online everywhere. My handle is Ask a Concierge. My website, askaconcierge.tv. If you want a signed copy of the book, hospitalityfromwithin.com, or you can find it on Amazon. So there you go. Everything, everywhere.
Perfect. Safe travels and thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Good
me
to
on.
see you. Take care, Sarah. Thank you, our audience, for joining us today. I thought this was an important show, having Sarah join us again. Her book is amazing. It does not matter what industry you're in, but definitely if you're in the hospitality sector, you should pick this up. It's a great read. You're going to learn a lot from it, and it's going to help you in your day-to-day business. I guarantee it. So I'd like to thank our production partners, Radisson Hotels of the Americas and Chicago Title National Commercial Services Group, California. And thank you. And as I'm fond of saying, be kind, share your knowledge. Now go be amazing.